let's quickly just jump back into the difference between voluntary manslaughter as well, because that's a huge part of this conversation. Because here's what happens, right? Sometimes people will try to claim self-defense, things like that. And there are certain exceptions when it comes to self-defense. But if you guys saw that clip, ain't no self-defense there at all.
There's no self-defense.
No self-defense. But that felony murder conversation was super important. So let's talk about voluntary manslaughter, right? This is a killing resulting from an adequate provocation, right? So this is like, okay, somebody is legit provoking you, right? They call these heat of passion killings or an imperfect self-defense. There's 4 things you have to look at. 1, is the provocation reasonable? Meaning, if TLA and I are in a fight, and I don't know, maybe Maggie is a person that was in a similar scenario, would she have acted the same way that we would have acted? Sometimes they call that a reasonable person standard.
Right. Put us back out. Let's give the fact pattern first, right?
Yep.
So okay, so here's what's happening. Me and AV were married. Finally get married. I finally find the one after all these goddamn years, man. All this goddamn dating apps and all this. Finally, right? We have a kid together. I got a little lead, man. AV gives me a little lead. All right. And, our son is 3 years old. And, I come home and I'm supposed to be gone, but I come home at 3 p.m. and I find that AV is in our bedroom.
Yeah, of course. I knew you were going to say that.
DW. She is in our bedroom with DW. Now, this is the classic case where I open up the door and I see her and DW in my bed. Look, y'all know AV got it, but strong, high value woman. But I paid for that fucking bed. To be honest, I paid for the house. And I'm paying the mortgage on the house, and this man is in my house and in my bed. What do? I reach in my waistband, pull out my Glock, bam, I shoot him right on the bed. He's dead. He dies in the same bed. And then I'm looking at her and she's, AV's like, man, Lee, come on, don't even do it to me, Lee. You were gone, Lee, you were gone. You know these modern women, they want to flip it around on you. This would not be considered first degree murder. This is what's considered a heat of passion because, this is my wife. We got this damn 3-year-old. We're trying to make a way. And then this dude comes in and is sleeping with my wife in my house, in my bed. They're going to cut me some slack. This wasn't even against the law in Texas until like the 1970s. You could kill a man and get off scot-free. Like, you can't do that as a man. You can't be up in someone else's bed like this. So they're going to give me a reduced sentence. This is what's called the heat of passion. This is the fact pattern. Now that we've got the facts, go back and look at the elements.
Got it. Okay. So we're talking about that, right? The heat of passion killing, right? And we're talking about a reasonable provocation. So in that scenario, that's reasonable. I'm sure like other husbands would feel the same way, right?
Hell yes.
Yeah. So the defendant has to be provoked in a scenario like that. In this scenario, this is a provocation, so that makes sense. Then you go to this one. A reasonable man so provoked would not have cooled off in the interval of time between the provocation and the crime. So that's another big thing, right? There's that cooling off time, right?
Yes, and so right.
So think about this Nipsey Hussle scenario. Eric had time.
Wait, let's go back. Pull us up again.
Yep.
Pull us up again. Now, and what she's saying, guys, is so right. The cooling off period sometimes is the whole linchpin. the whole linchpin. Imagine what happens, and this is a judgment call. I'm going to give you guys a weird case. What happens if I open up the door and I see DW in there naked with my wife? I reach, same scenario. I reach into my waistband and guess what? The gun's not there. I forgot that I had put it in my glove compartment. So I run downstairs and this dude is like, oh man, Lee's going to get his shit. I run downstairs. The dude jumps up and he's trying to put on his damn jeans. And I run out the door, run into the driveway, open the car door, open the glove compartment and get my Glock. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, I'm like, am I going to do this? Am I going to do this? And then I think about, I got a kid with AV, like we're married. So I'm like, hell yes, I'm going to do this. And I run back in the house and as I'm going up the steps, he's coming down, bam, bam, double tap to the chest. He's gone. Now, we already established that if I had just opened the door and I had my gun on me, there wasn't a chance for me to cool down. I'm looking at this dude right here. So there was no cooling off period. Is the fact that I had to run downstairs, run outside, open up my car door, go into my glove compartment, get the gun, then go back in. Was that a sufficient cooling off period? Now, that's a close case. Let me give you a case that's not closed. Same facts. I open up the door. I see AV with DW. I reach into my waistband. The gun isn't there. And I remember that my gun is at my rental property. That's 30 minutes away. So now I have to go in my car, drive 30 minutes to the damn rental property, get my gun, drive 30 minutes back. Right?
An hour.
Yeah, it's an hour. And by that time he's gone. But then, when I was leaving, I saw his license plate. So I called up my instructor, my friend, hey, I need you to run these plates and let me know where this dude lives. Then I go over to his house, which is another 30 minutes, and then shoot him. Now, that is heat of passion because I'm still mad about what he did to me, ruin my marriage, but I had time to cool off all of this driving. So the question is going to be, with all of the driving, that's certainly I had a chance to cool off. And when I was standing at the door and I had my gun in my waistband, I didn't have a chance to cool off. Put a yes in the chat if you think me going to my driveway and getting the gun out of my glove compartment. Put a yes in the chat if you think that was a cooling off period, or put a no in the chat if you're like, no, that wasn't enough of a cooling off period. I'm still hot. I'm still impassioned. And I still get the reduced sentence, Put a yes in the chat if you think that I did have enough cooling off period when you run to the driveway, and put a no in the chat if you don't. But see, this is where juries come in. It's the juries that are going to decide how much of a cooling off period there was, right? So yeah, keep going, AB.
Yeah, there's a lot of no's. There's a lot of no's. It looks like the no's have the majority right now. Y'all are on it.
The no's think that was not a cooling off period. All right.
Right. There's a few yeses. It's picking up. And Instructor Mike is here, so that's why I'm like, we got to put that comment up.
Shout out to Instructor Mike.
Yeah, he goes, no, it's not enough of a cooling off, but the case can still be made that it was premeditated because at any time you could have turned around and decided not to do it. That's exactly what we're hoping to get at with this, guys, right? And that's why when I was thinking about doing this for you, and knowing that Eric's going to try to use this as a defense, because if you think about it, after he shot, or, even before it happened, he says, hey, you're a snitch, clear this up. He had an opportunity to turn around, to walk away, to do all these other things, right? Instead, he chose to go a block away to where his girlfriend was in the car, got the gun, and then come back, right? So it's interesting because as the facts develop, I want to know personally, how long was that period? I think it was a matter of minutes, right? And looking at how you guys are reacting, and if you were on the jury, it's interesting to see how he's gonna.
Yeah, and here's what happened, guys. Again, here's what happened. Eric, the shooter, orders his food and then goes and talks to Nipsey. And Nipsey's like, hey man, haven't seen you in a while. Word on the street is that you're a snitch, and they're both in the same gang, rolling 60s. You just don't, I mean, you call somebody a snitch under those terms, and there were other people around. Other people heard Nipsey call this man a snitch. So that's fighting words if you're in a gang. Says, word on the street is you're a snitch. You better get your paperwork together and prove that you're not. You got to clear this up. So here's where the cooling off period starts. You guys see if this is enough of a cooling off period. He's like, oh, I'm a snitch. He goes and gets his food, then goes and gets back into the car with his girlfriend. The girlfriend leaves the strip mall. And as she's leaving, he says, hey, go around. I want to eat my food in the back. And so she drives around the strip mall like a block away and stops. He says, park right here. And she parks and he starts eating his food. And he's eating. And then she looks down and now he's manipulating guns. And she's like, wait, what the fuck's going on? He's like, hey, wait here. And then he gets out of the car and walks all the way back to the strip mall, in the front of the strip mall, and then start shooting. So the question is, was that enough time to cool off? Getting his food, getting in the car, leaving the strip mall, going around to the back of the strip mall, parking the car, eating some of his food, he didn't finish, then leaving the car, walking all the way back to the front of the strip mall, shooting him. Was that enough time for him to cool off to where you would not expect him to shoot? Or was it just, he was still hot and he was still emotionally involved? He had been called a snitch in front of people.
Yeah.
In a gangland situation. So was he still like, that's going to be the question.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
No, it really is, so I'm just gonna, because with the slide, like there's just one last thing, and I think you just covered it. It's just the fact that the defendant must have not, in fact, cooled off during that interval of time, right?
Exactly.
So it's going to be interesting how the defense is going to argue against this. And we said this towards the beginning, right? This is his second attorney. The first one was like, I'm not getting these death threats. I'm sorry, man.
Someone put in the chat that his first attorney was Charles Darden.
Yes, it was.
I did not know that. I didn't know he was still around. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, and he stepped down because he was getting death threats towards his family.
Yeah, it is not worth it.
Yeah,
one of my best friends. Mm-hmm. One of my best friends represents a humongous drug trafficker in Mexico. Yeah. And they have paid him millions of dollars. And he's worried. These people, they can pay you so much. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes the job of an attorney can be extremely dangerous. Extremely dangerous. Like I said, down here in Atlanta, the DA has had to beef up her security because she's trying to prosecute Young Thug, the rapper. And she's getting all of these death threats. So, being an attorney, sometimes it's not peaches and cream. I myself have received death threats from representing wives. I've received a few death threats from husbands where I represent the wife. So we're taking everything. And guess what? Men don't like it when you take everything they have. They don't like it. Right. So being an attorney, it's a real deal. And attorneys have been killed. Usually the attorneys that die, you would think they're prosecutors. Usually they're divorce attorneys because the men are just so emotionally enraged of losing everything. So being an attorney can be real. Yeah, it could be really tough out here. KD, we got KD in the chat. Damn, everybody's in here. We almost got 300 people in here. Jesus Christ. This is what, man, 6 videos and you got 300 people in the damn chat. I mean, I can't. This is what that shit is. This is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Light skinned in America, right?
Oh man.
All right, let's stir the pot. Let's stir the pot. All right. Yeah. So get back. So
yep. What? So why don't we add a few people up? You know, let's start to hear from everybody. We've been going for about an hour so far. That's really just the beginning of this. I'm going to try to do some more commentary in the next few weeks as their arguments start to develop, as more pieces of the cases come out, as we can get more clips and we can look at them together, right? I'm not stealing law and crimes stuff today, right? I'm still a beginner. We're not stealing cable yet. But let me drop down the link. I'd love to see you guys. You know,
make KD a mod too.